I was curious to see if there was a difference between this and this. One is a vinyl record, the other is a Spotify version of the exact same album. My analog journey has always been about slowing down, setting intentions, and finding tools that support that process. Journals, pens, watches, knives, each has become a companion. Looking back, I suppose it was inevitable I'd explore analog sound. Music is such a powerful part of daily rhythm, so vinyl felt like the next frontier. And like everything else, I wanted to start simple. I needed to start on a budget. I told my wife about this newfound curiosity, and she mentioned that her dad might still have an old record player. A few days later, he showed up with an old Rega Planer 2 turntable, untouched for decades, but still beautiful and honestly a little intimidating. He even lent me a few of his old records. Plugging it in was another story. I quickly realized I needed a preamp.
What the heck is a preamp?
A quick hop on Amazon a few days later, and then I realized I needed longer speaker wires. Shielded ones, another Amazon order. When finally I had everything set up, I dropped the tone arm onto the record and nothing. Completely silent. I was mystified. And then I took a closer look. Turns out, this thing was missing a needle. Back to research mode, back to waiting for parts, and eventually my father-in-law suggested I try another turntable. This one belonging to my wife's grandfather. A little more automated, a little less scary. When we finally got the second table going, we sat together and played those old records. My in-laws shared stories about saving up to buy vinyl, about how music back then wasn't just background but something to sit with, together, parties, listening sessions, the albums they were excited about and what the music meant to them, what the artist meant to them. When I lowered the needle and heard that first crackle, followed by sound, it was like being transported. The music felt alive in a way I hadn't experienced since live shows. My wife described it as hearing the space between the instruments, and that was exactly it. It wasn't just sound, it was presence. Listen, I'm not an audiophile. My equipment is basic, but here's what vinyl made me realize, and how it's changed things for me. I realized Spotify had become a distraction, something I used to fill in silence. With vinyl, I'm listening to albums front to back again as the artist intended. On Spotify, I realized I was gravitating towards digests, playlists, best ofs, never really picking an album to listen to. And perhaps that's just a function of being older, because I do remember when I was younger, I would listen to entire albums front to back. But as things get busy and everything seems like it's going really fast, intentionally picking an album start to finish didn't seem to cross my mind on Spotify. It was too easy to just go to the playlists. Now the other thing that vinyl introduced is the fact that you can't skip songs easily, which means you actually sit with them, even the ones you don't love at first. I've started replaying albums over and over, and instead of chasing the dopamine hit of new playlists, the new songs, I'm letting myself live inside an album for days at a time. The ritual of putting a record on has created a routine around listening. I'll read, I'll journal, or sometimes I'll just sit there. Most times, I'll just sit there. And the sound, especially with jazz, classical, it feels alive. Digital has a kind of perfection, and it comes across a bit sterile. Vinyl feels human, flawed, textured, and beautiful. With vinyl, everything is a little bit clunkier, a little bit slower, and it requires dedication and presence, which is exactly what I was looking for in an analog tool, to support that journey of slowing down with intention. Of course, there are downsides. Records cost money, they need cleaning. Equipment can get pricey, they take up space. And you're not bringing vinyl with you on a road trip. That's where Spotify still fits. I'll use it to explore new artists or soundtrack a drive. But when I'm home, it's vinyl. It's always vinyl. Vinyl has turned music into a ritual for me again. It's physical, it's intentional, and it's given me back the joy of listening with presence. I wasn't expecting to add this to my analog journey, but here we are. I'm curating a soundtrack for my life, one record at a time.